Hey everybody, Matt Johnston here. It has been quite a long time since I've created a video, so I wanted to start to address some of the questions that I am getting regarding COVID-19, leave policies, schools, quarantining, can I make employees do certain things? So I wanted to address a few of the things that have come up with me in my practice in the past few weeks and hopefully provide a little bit of guidance. So, as some school districts around the country are starting to allow students back into the building, some of the questions that are coming up are what happens if the school informs me that my child was exposed to COVID-19 or tells me I need to quarantine my kid for a couple of weeks because of a possible quarantine exposure or COVID-19 exposure. So, let's run through the analysis on that. Under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, there's a couple of potential scenarios that could apply here. Scenario number one might be my kid has to stay home from school for COVID-19 related reasons and I need to take time off to care for my child. Under that scenario, you would be eligible for one of a couple of different things. First, you'd be eligible for the Federal Paid Leave Act or Federal Paid Leave Benefit, which is up to 80 hours of work at full-time pay, or you might be eligible for up to 80 hours of 2/3 of your pay under a different provision of the FFCRA. So those two options are available. If you have exhausted the full pay benefits, you may have to resort to the 2/3 pay benefit, perfectly fine. If you are the employer, you're going to have to get some documentation in order to support your claim for tax credits that are available for making those payments and paying your salaries or wages to your employees. But it is possible to do that. There are some conditions. First of all, the employee who might need to take the time off has to be unable to work. So if it's a situation where the employee can work from home for a couple of weeks, they would still be eligible for their regular pay, they would get paid, and you as the employer would not be able to claim the tax credits. But if they have the kind of job that requires them to be in the office and they can't work from home, but they have to be at home to take care of a child, then that would be eligible. And you should consult legal counsel just to make sure you understand which one is which. So the short answer is yes, you may be eligible for paid leave off. Facts and circumstances may require different scenarios and different calculations and different advice. The next question that I seem to be getting a lot is, now that the United States is starting to open up to a certain extent, people are traveling a little bit and they're often going to places that may or may not be, I guess, disfavored, would be a good way of looking at it. I recently had a situation where I personally had to go to Florida for a few days. Now I work for myself and I can often just, tell clients that I'm going to talk to them on the phone or talk to them by Zoom or something like that. But if you happen to be an employer that has multiple people and you have somebody coming back from Florida, they may be on a list that might require testing. Some states have rules that if you are traveling from a state where the positivity rate is greater than 10%, you have to quarantine for 14 days. So those kinds of scenarios do exist. So the question is can an employer require an employee to get a COVID-19 test? And the answer is yes. And you can require that employee to stay at home until you get the test results, and you can require the employee to show you the test results. So you can have all of those actions. Now, bear in mind that if you send an employee home and they are unable to work from home, they may be eligible for reimbursement for pay. Like I talked about the FFCRA for kids in school, the same thing would apply to employees who are required to get a test, they're waiting for the results of the test, or they're required to quarantine by an employer or a government order. So yes, you can require somebody to get a test and show you the test results. And in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not a bad idea. So the other question that I've gotten, actually just in the past 24 hours, I've gotten all of these questions. Another question that I have gotten is, what if an employee has used up their free or their federal paid time off benefit, the 80 hours at full pay, and they are still required to quarantine for a number of reasons? So if they're required to quarantine because their child is unable to attend school, then they may be eligible for the expanded FMLA, which is another 80 hours at 2/3 pay. They may be eligible for regular EFMLA. By regular, I mean it may be paid or unpaid. They may be eligible to use some paid time off, or if they don't have paid time off, there are some states that do have some mandatory sick leave provisions that have to be provided by their employer. For example, the state of Maryland has what's called a Safe and Sick Leave Act, and in that scenario, the employee may be eligible to take that. So one of the things that you want to do as an employer is do some consultation with your employee. Is this a short-term issue? Is it a long-term issue? Do they need to care for somebody over the long term who may need care for COVID-related reasons? If that's the case, you may want to consider furloughing them for a period of time. I realize that right now the federal additional benefit that was paid to employees in the immediate lockdown timeframes is no longer available, but sometimes it may be more advantageous for the employee to be on an unemployment furlough status for a period of time while they get their COVID-19 cases resolved. So all of these things are possible, and it requires a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of thinking, and you should probably consult an attorney. How you doing? Matt the Lawyer, just in case you were wondering who you could call. And from there you can make some decisions in consultation with your employee. Don't just assume that the employee has to be laid off. Don't assume that the employee is eligible for paid leave. They may or may not. There are circumstances that may differ from employer to employer. In the meantime, this is the latest and the most recent COVID-19 legal update. We're not really updating the law so much as talking about particular facts and circumstances. If you want to hear more about these videos and the things that I do, click the subscribe button, which will appear either here or here. I'm not sure which one. You can get our other videos as they become available. In the meantime, also check out our blog at mattthelawyer.com. Lots of free information there. And in the meantime, I will talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.